So for years I've been doing just like random things, if you like, but they've been of no consequence because it's just been a spiritual thing between me and the Creator. I've just gone and sort of done things, and I went to London last year and I was taken on a journey through London. I was actually trying to head somewhere in London, and I didn't make it there. I made it somewhere completely different. I ended up at the Royal Exchange. Never heard of the Royal Exchange, never been there. But when I got there, I was like, I just knew the whole day, really. I just knew there was something like incredibly spiritual going on. And as I sort of stepped onto the plaza of the Royal Exchange, I just started to sing. And I can't even really say it's like my voice is very deep, you know, like if I'm singing. This one was very, very high, very sweet, very beautiful. And it was the song from Phantom of the Opera, you know, I'll try. Put too much pressure on myself, aren't I? Think of me fondly when we say goodbye. That one, sang it much nicer. In any case, so there's me singing away. And I walked up like the steps of the Royal Exchange, and I looked sort of up, and there were these 3 plaques at the top. And this light came down, and like came into me. And you're probably sat there at this point going, all right, lady. And I'm like, well, no, this is just like what was a normal thing for me. Because again, to anyone else, it didn't really have any consequence as such. It was just the fact that I knew that I was sort of doing something spiritual and that it meant something, but it didn't necessarily need to mean anything to me at the time. Anyway, so when I got home from that weekend, I looked through my photos that I'd taken. And then they started to tell me a story. Like when I actually looked through them, I was like, oh my gosh, like this itself is a story. The pictures I've taken are like trying to tell me something that, you know. So I think I went to the Royal Exchange to say that I remembered the Magdalene. That's sort of what I got through. But also that the Magdalene was with Jesus, that they were indeed a couple. And anyway, I asked, I was like, okay, well, like, what do you want me to do with that? And what I got through was that I needed to tell someone, and it was a specific name. It was a woman I know. And the name I was given, I was just like, really? Like, that is genuine. Like, that person is genuinely the last woman, like, or, you know, person that I would actually want to speak to about it all. So I was like, really? And it was like, yeah, no, her. So I was like, okay. So anyway, I hadn't spoken to this woman for a few years because actually there was a bit of a saga, put it that way, which was fine. It was amicable, but it was just the fact that we just sort of like left the sort of friendship relationship as it was, and just sort of, you know, not sort of spoken to each other for a time. Anyway, so this name comes in and I'm like, okay. So I called her up. We've got children. The children really like each other. They play together. So I said, do you want to take the kids out for the day? She's like, yeah, no worries. So anyway, I said to her, look, I've got something to tell you. And I think maybe, you know, you could help me with it or something like that. And at the time I was thinking, oh, maybe it's her because she is Catholic, practicing Catholic. And I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. There's a massive, massive difference. For me, not even for me, for all of us, the way it should be. The church is here. The divine, literally, it is within us, and we are part of the divine. So I started to sort of tell her this story about where I've been in the week or on the weekend and what I think I did in London. And she's sort of listening. And I said to her, look, you're going to have to start trying to listen here because all you're doing is listening here. I said, you're not going to get it. She's like, I'm trying. Now she says, that's all because a friend of mine has just been over from America and he has since converted to Christianity. And he was in England looking for the Templars. And I was like, what? He was looking for the Templars in our town. And she was like, yeah, there's the church in the main town, which is a Templar church. And also there's the church at, and she mentioned a small village within where we live. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm telling you. That's why you're supposed to tell me this. So anyway, we then sort of carried about the day. I didn't finish the story. I didn't get to tell her what it was that I wanted to tell her. But I had in my head that actually the information I needed from her was that there was this church in the little village. So that night I went to go and try and find this church. And it was the weirdest thing, because the energy was mad. The energy was so high. My phone, I couldn't work out on my phone how to get to this church. It was just insane. I was supposed to be at a bonfire. It was the 5th of November. I didn't even really realise. I was supposed to be at a bonfire. I was supposed to be at somewhere else. And I was chasing around after trying to find this church. Anyway, so I actually rang the friend and said, well, the lady, and said, you know, if you had any idea of where it is. Now, she sent me a picture of where she thought it was. So I then tried to find the place that obviously the picture matched, and she'd given me an idea of where it was. So I went to find it. Now, it turns out she'd actually sent me to completely the wrong place. But that's where the story gets quite interesting, because basically I turned up at the address that she'd given me, and it was a house, it was a vicarage, and there was a man sat in the window, quite clearly obviously the vicar, sat in the window of this house. So I'm like, oh, okay. And they were like, go and speak to that man. I'm like, whoa. No. No. I was coming to tell Stones, I was coming to tell the church building as such, about my adventures in London and what I thought had sort of gone on. And they were like, no, you need to go and speak to that man. I'm like, it's a man. Anyway, I thought, fine, okay, just get it over and done with. You can think I'm whatever for a couple of minutes and that'll be fine. So I walked up to his door, and he'd seen me come in, so he came to answer it, and I said, look, can I just speak to you for a minute? And bless him, he let me in, and then I sat and I told him the story, and I told him about the man that I'd seen, and I didn't actually mention who I thought this man was, in fairness, because at the time I can't say I had even made that sort of link or leap in my head as to kind of fully who exactly this man was. So anyway, spoke to the vicar, that was it, off I went, and that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, and it hasn't been. And I just know. The best way I can describe it is that if you know you love someone, you just know that you love them. There's nothing that anybody else can say to you to convince you of otherwise, because you know how you feel. You know what those feelings feel like, and sort of like to what lengths you would go to sort of show that love. And I'm like that. I'm a freaking science teacher, or was. Am I really going to sit here and sort of start telling the world that I think Jesus is here? And I'm like that, yeah, I will. Because